What's up, everybody? I just want to pop in real quick before we start this episode of the Torture Cast and give a little bit of a disclaimer here. Ben and I were having a lot of internet troubles when we recorded this episode, so if it sounds a little choppy, if things seem like they skip around a little bit, that's why. We even had to call the episode a little bit early because it got so bad that we just couldn't even finish what we were going to do. I was going to go in and record some of the last segments by myself, but I decided against that at the last minute. Also, this was recorded a few days before you're actually hearing it. It was on the 22nd of July. At that point, Tim Lincecum had two really good starts back-to-back. We were deciding whether we thought he was back or not. You can hear that, but if you know what's happened since then, obviously he's had another bad start. We lost 2 straight to the Dodgers. Watching the game now, Game 3 with Ryan Vogelsong. And going to put this episode out anyway, pretty much as is. Just wanted to give you guys a quick heads up as to why it might be a little bit weird. I'll pop in again at the end and kind of recap what happened. But there you go. Now enjoy episode 34 of the Torture Cast.
You're listening to a podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants with hosts Willie Dills, Chad King, and Ben Lee.
Let's go Giants! SF Giants! Let's go Giants! SF Giants!
Dedicated to the greatest team in Major League Baseball history, the San Francisco Giants. This is Torture Cast.
We're standing on top, not gonna stop. We came to play, ain't slowing down. Falling off, we're here to stay, and we're stomping on whatever's in our way. I'm feeling like a giant tonight.
Welcome, everybody, to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. It's been about 2 weeks since we last recorded, and we missed the All-Star break, and we apologize for that. But we are back. My name is Willie Dills. This is episode 34, which is, of course, everyone knows, the Clay Hensley episode. And it is July 22nd. And today I am joined by the triumphant return of Ben Lee. Ben Lee, welcome back to the show, man. We've missed you.
Hey, it's good to be back. I feel like I'm coming off the DL. I think you might have to keep an eye out, just like keep a lefty handy in case I spike a couple of curveballs or something. I don't know, this could get messy, but it's good to be here again.
Don't slide into any bases you don't need to, okay? If you get the stay up sign, stay up, all right?
But if you don't get any dirt on your uniform, you're not doing any work.
I guess that's a good point. Go ahead and slide all you want, dude. If it was meant to be, it's meant to be. We're glad to have you back on the show, and Chad King, unfortunately, is not going to be with us today. He is at some sort of a grand opening of I think it's an aquarium, right?
It's not. It's an extension of the Monterey Bay Aquarium.
Yeah.
Looks pretty cool. We can, force him to post a link up on the website or something for the people that care what we do when we're not talking about baseball.
Yeah, probably not very many people do, but
I'm guessing my mom. That's pretty much all I can come up with.
It sounds pretty cool, and if you for those of you who don't know, Chad is a marine biologist, which George Costanza tried to pretend to be one just to get some tail, and Chad actually is one. So, man, that guy gets a lot of tail.
Yeah, fish tail, dolphin tail.
Yeah, exactly. But we're gonna miss him. But he actually did post a blog post up on torturecast.com that is pretty entertaining, and he started a hashtag on Twitter that I found quite entertaining, which was, or actually, I don't know if he started it or somebody started it in response to what he was posting, which was about Mitch Williams, who actually called our nationally televised game.
Yes.
Those of you who don't remember, Mitch Williams pitched for, at the time, was it the Cubs? Was he pitching for them? It was in 1989. I remember that.
Tell you.
I believe it was for the Cubs at the time. I want to look this up because I don't want to be wrong. But I think he's the pitcher who gave up the Will Clark hit up the middle. He was a Phillies pitcher most of his career. But if I'm remembering correctly, he's the guy who gave up the 89 Will Clark single up the middle. That's right. In 1989, he was pitching for the Chicago Cubs.
Well, that certainly explains a lot.
There you go. He was an all-star that year, actually. And, I'm sorry, Cubs, but you're the Cubs, and you always will be the Cubs, no matter who's on your team. So Mitch Williams was clearly rooting for the Phillies during that game. I don't know if you were watching that game at all. Every time, so Matt Cain hits
I got to see some of it. I didn't get to hear all of the commentary.
Okay. Well, I'll recap this for you just a little bit.
All right.
Matt Cain hits a home run and off of Cole Hamels.
Did see that. That was brilliant.
And the home run call, I wish I'd pulled this audio, was the most subdued home run call I've ever heard. I think literally what he said was, "Oh no."
Gone.
No, he said, "Oh no." And then the ball went out.
I think you were right. I think he may have. That sounds familiar.
And so Matt Cain hits a home run. I was not 100% paying attention to the game at that very moment. I was kind of like on the computer doing some other stuff.
Did you not even realize he'd hit a home run?
That's the thing. I hear the call. It doesn't make me go, "Oh, a home run just happened." I happen to look up when I hear the word "gone" and I see Matt Cain rounding the bases, and I'm like, "This is a big deal. This is a pitcher hitting a home run. You got to make a big deal out of this." Then
this
Cole
is a pitcher
Hamels,
hitting a home run off of a very good pitcher.
Exactly. Then Cole Hamels, the very next half inning, also hits a home run, and dude loses his mind. He goes absolutely bonkers. And also, he loses his mind later in the game when Ryan Howard hit a home run. And it was just every time the Giants would hit one, he was like, he was disappointed. And every time the Phillies would hit one, he was super excited. Now, I understand he played most of his career on the Phillies. So, whatever. Take that for what it is. I mean, not even most, like 4 years or something like that.
Well, and for example, if you were going to listen to the ESPN broadcast, I wouldn't be surprised if Oral Hershiser had better things to say about the Dodgers, but...
Yeah, but, I feel like...
At the same time, he's a lot better at being impartial. Him and Tito Francona and, Dan, all of them they're much better at...
Eric Karros is very impartial when I watch those games. I'm surprised at how impartial he is because he played his whole career with the Dodgers, so...
There is that.
Yeah, so it was just kind of one of those things where you noticed it. It was very noticeable, and you said, "What does Mitch Williams have against the Giants?" And then you thought back, 1989. That's right. Sorry about that, but that was a long time ago, dude. It's time to get over that.
Well, and some people are cut out to be broadcasters. Some people are cut out to be local broadcasters.
Sure.
Mitch Williams is cut out to be a local Philly broadcaster in my mind because I don't think he did a bad job. But when it sounds like you're rooting for one side, even if you're, John Miller sounds like he's rooting for one side, but he doesn't sound like he's rooting for one side.
No, well, you know what? He doesn't sound like
everything comes from one side's perspective.
It's true.
So it's very interesting because to us we say, "Oh, it's very unbiased," and to somebody else it'd be like, "That's totally a Giants telecast." Whereas with Mitch Williams and with some other guys, like there are a couple of guys. I want to say like Chicago White Sox, for example. You get guys. It's like, yeah. This is even the Chicago White Sox guys are like, this is a Chicago Whites telecast, we're lucky to have a couple of guys who, you got Kuiper and Kruko would just be like, boy, Livan Hernandez sure is dealing today. And Brandon Crawford strikes out again. Boy, that Livan Hernandez really looking good tonight. Brandon Belt strikes out again. Boy, I'll tell you. And they'll respect the other guy.
They do, yeah, but they also root.
Much,
but the thing is, I think listen to John Miller do a national telecast and listen to him do a Giants telecast, and it's a different story. But
true.
You know what? Whatever, Mitch Williams, be what you be. And the hashtag actually became Bitch Williams, which I thought was pretty damn funny. And so if anybody wants to tweet out jokes about Mitch Williams, use the hashtag Bitch Williams. TortureCast approved. And let's talk about the All-Star game, because the All-Star game was a big deal for Giants fans. There was a big hullabaloo. I can't believe I just used the word hullabaloo. About Pablo Sandoval being the starting third baseman, Melky Cabrera being the starting outfielder, Buster Posey being the starting catcher, and then, of course, Matt Cain as the starting pitcher. Everybody, mostly Mets fans and Sandy Alderson, thought that this was awful and a travesty, and none of these people were as deserving as they should be, and Giants fans were stuffing the ballots and all this stuff.
Well, I would say Giants fans were probably stuffing the ballots.
Well, they were voting.
Let's throw that out there. Well, they were. Stuffing the ballots has a negative connotation. Sure. Giants fans were voting en masse.
Yes.
Giants fans were voting in force. And
yes. And let's face it.
Part of the biggest issue is that, let's face it, the Mets have a very dedicated and a very devoted fan base that just isn't as big as the Yankees.
Well, that's true, but also, you can't compare like New York to San Francisco when you talk about the fan bases.
No, because either one is much larger and one is much smaller.
But the Bay Area is a very big area that has tons of people.
True,
and
we
New York
don't have
has two teams right in the city limits, basically. So,
right, and I mean, in fairness, the Giants in Oakland have a similar dynamic currently to the Yankees and the Mets, in the sense that one team currently is a bit larger, it has more reach, but the other team has a very devoted and very strong fan base.
Sure.
And so we've got that. But at the same time, once you get out of San Francisco, the next nearest team is 6 hours away if you drive fast. Whereas in that along the East Coast, you can't sneeze without hitting the Phillies market from New York.
No, it's true. Yeah, though there's a ton of people, and also the East Coast has a lot of movement within. I guess it's within the small states that are very bunched together, and there's a lot of people who are from Philly, now they live in New York, from New York, now live in Philly, from Boston, now live in Philly, whatever.
Right.
I mean, they're all so close to each other.
Right, they all
just
mix
kinda
up,
share
and they're
it.
all and you see a lot more like mixing up of different fans and and all that. But the thing is, though, a lot of those fan bases are really dedicated, and so I mean, I don't know that we have more reach necessarily, or that we're more likable or what, but we were more motivated, and I think that was really the key, is that you had more people who were motivated. I mean, wasn't Brandon Crawford like second?
No, that got blown out. He was fourth place.
He was
for
fourth.
shortstops.
That's right.
Yeah,
He
which
was
is way
Brandon
higher than he
held
should be.
And for a little while. And neither of them are deserving of an all-star nod. While they have been very good for us this year in many ways, they are not all-stars.
No, hell no.
I don't. Yeah, most people I know are not at all sorry to say that.
But that being said,
though,
none of the guys who made it were completely unqualified. I'm sorry. Like I can, Pablo comes as close as you could say to being unqualified, but he is having a good year.
Pablo is having a really good year considering that he got injured.
Mm-hmm.
So you can justify him getting in because he's got the look of somebody being really good. But I looked at what they were saying and I said, you know what? On the one hand, I agree. David Wright is having a ridiculous year.
Oh yeah, he's probably the MVP right now. Yeah.
Quite frankly, David Wright should have been the starting third baseman. I'll say it. David Wright probably should have been the starting third baseman if the fans weren't voting. But you can't get mad and bellyache about it unless you're going to push your fans to vote.
Exactly.
And did Sandy Alderson do that? I hope so. I haven't gotten to read any of his tweets. I really hope that he did.
I don't think the Mets had as big a campaign as we did, obviously, and we talked about this like after the teams were actually selected. But let's be honest. As a Giants fan, this was probably the most satisfying All-Star game of all time. I mean, back in the day, you would get Willie Mays, and they played 2 games, and Willie Mays was Giants fans in the past, but it's been a long time. I mean, I can remember clearly Atlee Hammaker starting the All-Star game and getting shelled. I can clearly remember, Barry Bonds going to the All-Star game and then not being in the home run derby or something, and then not barely playing and people getting pissed. I can remember these All-Star games. I can remember Rick Russell actually pitching okay, but he was like the only guy there. I can remember this stuff. But I cannot remember a single All-Star game where not only did we get the MVP, the All-Star MVP in Melky Cabrera, who went 2 for 3 with a home run. We had Pablo hit 3 RBIs. Buster Posey's had the smallest to do with the game, but he caught the starting pitcher for 2 innings. Well, he and some other pitchers.
Yeah, not just the starting pitcher, right?
Exactly, and we gave up nothing. And then Matt Cain gives up 1 hit, I think, in 2 innings, and pitches really strong. So all 4 guys who showed up there had a very strong showing, and the National League just dominated the American League. And this is now three wins in a row for the National League after losing 7 in a row or something like that.
Yeah, I used to go into the All-Star game just like already cringing, going, "Oh, the AL is going to make us look stupid again." And then I think it was starting. Was it starting our year or the year that we won the series, or the year before?
I think it was the year before.
Year before, I think. And all of a sudden,
no, it must not have been. It was 2010 because I was 3 years.
That's right. That's right. It was 2010, and the NL has just been on a tear. I don't know what necessarily it is. Maybe it's that more people from more teams are getting onto the. I don't know, but. I mean, it didn't hurt to have our starting battery be the starting battery of the All-Star game. Like, oh, here's Matt Cain. Oh, he's throwing to Buster Posey. The rest of y'all don't stand a chance.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. But, I mean, I got to say, the whole thing about R.A. Dickey should start. I get it, but I also think that when you're the manager and you're looking and you get to make this choice, when you look at Matt Cain and you think, well, Buster Posey's the starting catcher. So I'm probably going to get the most competent work out of the 2 guys if I put Matt Cain as a starting pitcher. Also, Matt Cain has a perfect game this year. Let's not
Well, I mean, in fairness,
put down anything R.A. Dickey did.
But
let's not put down anything R.A. Dickey did. But you can't say that Matt Cain isn't deserving based on what he's done.
Correct.
So it's not like it was such a stark. No, just
everybody
difference
knew it was
going to
be between those 2, and that was the thing, is that everybody said, "Hey, it's going to be Cain or Dickey."
Yeah.
Nobody said, "Oh, you know what? It's going to be Strasburg." Nobody said it's going to be, Gio Gonzalez, or it's going to be.
Yeah, and it has
nobody
to
even
be
said
that
it's
guy.
going to be. Nobody even said it's going to be Cole Hamels, and he's had a really good year too. But it was really, it's going to be Kane or Dickey. And the thing is, I definitely can justify Dickey for so many reasons. He has a good story. He's been pitching really, really well.
Yeah, he's 12-3 at that point.
Yeah, he's unorthodox. It would have been a nice nod to the Mets. But at the same, who have the All-Star next year, and quite frankly, that if Dickey is still pitching this well, I hope he's the starter next year in his home park. I really hope so.
That's true. But the thing is it's not a big enough of a travesty as people are making it out to be. And that, to me, it's like it's fine to bitch and moan when it's your team, but to bitch and moan as if to say Kane was not deserving, that to me is taking it a little too far.
Agreed. I think there's much more of an argument to say that Pablo was undeserving compared to Wright than to say Dickey and Kane were practically in a dead heat.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I had to choose between the two, I'd say Kane because I'm a Giants fan. Somebody else said Kane because they're not. And I think that is kind of the key, is that everybody else probably would have said Kane or Dickey, if not their respective guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So either way, though, fantastic All-Star game, super fun. There were some really, really fun moments. Matt Kemp in the dugout, mic'd up, saying it's the San Francisco Giants show. That was fantastic. And then, of course, Melky at the end of the game getting awarded that car and getting interviewed.
I'd like to thank the fan.
Yeah, and then him saying at the end of every sentence, I want to thank the fan. And it was wonderful because everybody probably said, oh, my God, this guy speaks no English. But, San Francisco Giants fans, we're used to this. I mean, we've watched Amy G stumble through these interviews with these guys over and over again. Yeah. And the fact is, they need to give him a translator. They really should. I can't believe they didn't think of that. But either way, the All-Star game, incredibly satisfying. And I think all Giants fans can say to all Mets fans, suck it. So let's move on.
Suck it and have fun with the All-Star game next year.
Exactly. You got it in your
Whatever. You're getting the game
stadium.
next year.
Fine.
And I mean, I'll say it. I hope Dickey gets to start the game next year. I love R.A. Dickey. He's awesome.
He's great. Yeah, he's great.
Totally.
I mean, a 37-year-old who throws a knuckleball and is 12-3 at this point in the year. That's fantastic.
The guy could be the next Jamie Moyer with the way that he throws, except that, I mean, a little of his knuckles based on heat, but the fact remains, you throw a good knuckleball, you just keep going.
Yeah, no, you can go forever. I mean, the thing is, you can either get the thing about the knuckleball is when it's working, it's crazy, but when it's not working, you get shelled like crazy. So hopefully for him, he can keep it going.
That's been the thing about Dickey, though, is that his knuckleball is fast.
Yeah, no, it's
not
true.
A lot of guys throw 90-mile-an-hour knuckleballs. They're like 60 or 70, and they just kind of go.
Yeah, and if it doesn't move, it's basically like playing softball, or they're just teeing the ball up for you.
Right.
But let's talk about the Giants' first half real quick, and then we'll talk about what's happened since the first half. It's a little out of order.
About the first half. But.
Yeah, it's a little out of order in the notes here. But all right, so Giants ended the first half of the season 49-40, so 9 games over 500, a game and a half ahead of the Dodgers, and in first place.
It's always nice to hear.
It's a great place to be at the end of the first half, absolutely.
Can't complain.
And we went in and we got momentum out of the All-Star game coming out, which was great. But a couple of things were a little bit surprising. First of all, the Giants 5th in batting average, batting .261 as a team. Now,
I'm sorry, which team is this? Because you didn't just say the Giants, did you?
I'm talking about the San Francisco Giants, 5th in batting average. Now, here's where
Who are
it gets
you?
a little
What
worse.
What did you do
though.
with my baseball team?
Here's where it gets a little bit worse, though. 12th in runs scored.
Yeah.
And 14th in slugging percentage.
Yeah.
So that's where it gets a little. So the Giants are singling a lot, basically, and we're not hitting well with runners on. So whether or not we're improved, we're still not. We're not near one of the elite offenses in baseball. Often, but the Giants are much improved on their offense, and and here's where I think the improvement really starts to show. 3rd in stolen bases. That's huge because the Giants have not been a team with speed. I can't even remember the last time the Giants were a team with speed. Maybe 89.
With the amount of speed that we've got now, yeah. I mean, because it's very like Pagan, Cabrera, Blanco, Burris sometimes.
Yeah, we got speed off the bench. I mean, and we got like guys who, like Terrio, who can steal bases.
Good base runner. Even he's very good at reading, even if he's not this fast runner.
No, he's not super fast, but he's aggressive on the base. And one thing too is Bochy's really letting these guys go too. Like a guy like Terrio, you wouldn't think would be stealing as often as he is. But he is. He's stealing all the time. Every time he's on first base, I feel like he's a threat. So, I think 89 might be the last time I can think of it, but I might be wrong. I mean, we had Brett Butler that year, and even then we still weren't very fast. I mean, I can't think of another guy on that team who was fast. But the thing is, this is I've been touting this forever. The Giants in their ballpark should be putting together a good pitching staff and then a bunch of fast dudes.
Yep.
That's like the perfect team, I think, to play in that ballpark.
This is a park that's built for triples. We should have a team that's built for triples.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the problem is half the triples right now are being hit by Pablo Sandoval, and nobody expects that.
It's weird. Yeah, it's Cabrera's got a lot of triples this year, but then Sandoval's got.
Okay.
He's got his Sandoval. I think knows how.
He
to
has
hit
a
this
triples
ballpark,
reputation right now.
No.
He kind of knows when to turn it on.
Yeah.
And he especially after the All-Star game and the game immediately after that, it's sort of like, well, now they're expecting him to hit a triple every day,
Yeah. No, he's been unbelievable, and that's the thing. Playing in this ballpark, you think about it. If you get some speed, then all you have to do is get a single. All you have to do is steal a base, and then bunt a guy over and then get a fly ball. That's all you got to do.
Well, and that's Gregor Blanco right there.
Yeah. And we haven't had a team like that can do. We've had all these like bangers for a long time where we're hoping for them to hit a home run. And
live
when we
by
don't
the home
get a
run,
3-run
die by
home
the home run, and that was us. End of 2010, we got lucky and we lived by it. 2011, we just didn't hit him.
We didn't hit him anymore. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. We still aren't hitting him that often. Certainly more. Definitely more
than last year.
Still, well, more than last year is not you're setting the bar really low, fella.
Yeah.
But we're hitting more than last year, but we're also playing really good small ball, and I think that's changed everything for this team. We're dangerous on so many different levels.
No, it's true.
And we really had one threatening thing last year, and that was pretty much pitching, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and the thing is, if you look at the Giants, the team ERA is 3.63 right now, which is fifth in that's fifth in the National League. We're fifth in WHIP. We're actually getting beat by a few teams that are surprising. I mean, I don't think anybody thought the Nationals were going to be as good as they've been.
They have been quietly putting together a really good pitching staff, though, with Strasburg back, and Gio Gonzalez Gio Gonzalez just adds to the reasons that people say the American League is better than the National League, because American League pitchers come over here and they'll just start dominating. I mean, it doesn't hurt that you're pitching against the opposing pitcher like 3 times a game.
No, it's true. They come from the American League where there's 9 hitters in every lineup, and then suddenly it's like, oh, I get to take a hitter off? Oh, weird. Okay.
Right. And then, of course, Matt Cain and Cole Hamels hit home runs off of each other.
True. Yeah.
But
now, here's the funny thing, too. Now, the Giants finished the first half first in saves with 31 saves. And we lost our closer at the beginning of this year.
Right.
So that's not supposed to happen.
Also finished first in sweaty foreheads.
Yeah, exactly.
First in Wayne Brady references, because I'm just saying, if nobody else sees it, Santiago Garcia looks just like Wayne Brady, and it's amazing.
You expect him to suddenly bust into a serious improv routine at any moment.
In mid-game, I'm always like, is Santiago Garcia going to have to close a bitch? Or,
Now, he's been struggling really badly lately, but the fact is there's at least 2 other guys right now who can close in specific situations. I'm talking about Romo and Javier Lopez. I mean, both of these guys, it's perfect to have both of these guys, because if you need to mix and match based on the matchups, you got a really good right-hander and a really good left-hander, so you can do that. Now, I would love to see Casilla find that form that he had at the beginning of the year again. I don't know if his confidence is shaken or what's going on. It seems like he's just gotten wild. It does at this point. He doesn't feel like he's getting hit super hard. Like every now and then he'll have a game where he gets hit a little bit, but he'll give up a walk, and then he'll give up a single, and then all of a sudden things get a little bit hairy. And he just, he's still got the nasty stuff, and the stuff is breaking. He's just not locating it right now. And I'm hoping for him to bring it back. I really am. I'm rooting for the kid. Everybody's like kind of down on him right now. I don't feel down on him yet. There's been a couple of saves where it really wasn't all his fault that he blew.
There's been a couple of errors and a couple of things like that.
But you can't defend his ERA at this point in the past 2 weeks. But I remember specifically there was the game where he struck the guy out. He struck the last guy out.
Oh, yeah.
And Sanchez he blocks it, but he goes to his left. He has to dive on his knees to get it, tries to throw from his knees, throws it, and it pulls Belt off the base. Now, at this point, they had a runner on second base. Nobody's covering home, so the guy from second base just keeps on running, keeps trucking and
Which,
comes in for the
fairness,
tying run.
that part you could attribute to Santiago Casilla a little
Exactly.
bit.
No,
but
he should
that's-
have been covering the base. Yeah.
Right, but from a pitching standpoint, and that's one of the weird things about baseball is you judge a pitcher separately on his fielding and on his pitching. So when he makes an error on himself, it's still not an earned run,
Yeah,
even though he
it's
made an
very
error
strange,
himself,
but yeah.
which is interesting. But it's the same thing. Like Casilla's pitching is not what cost that save.
No, he
even
struck
if
the guy
Casilla
out.
may be what cost that save.
Yeah, he struck the guy out, but he just didn't cover home. He was too involved in hoping and praying for Hector Sanchez to throw the guy
and
out.
being really upset that he couldn't get the
Exactly.
handle on the
And
ball.
then suddenly we looked and there was nobody on home and the guy just comes across. It was one of those
crap.
brutal things. But to make us all feel better that night, the Dodgers lose a game because a guy steals home, and then as the pitcher throws the ball home, throws it wildly, and then another run comes around to score, and the Dodgers lose. So even though we lost in a horrible fashion,
forgot about that.
the Dodgers lost in a much worse way. So
That's true. I mean, it was a little embarrassing for us. It was a lot embarrassing for them.
exactly, yeah, the guy was basically he was like toeing the rubber, not paying attention, and then
Because
all of a sudden the guy
think
kept
about
home.
it. What are more people going to notice? Oh, that pulled him off the bag and someone wasn't covering home, or you threw it past him into the backstop
Yeah,
and
exactly.
somebody scored,
And then somebody
Like,
else scored on a home base steal. It
on
was
a
crazy.
steal of home.
Yeah, it was crazy. Anyway, wrapping up the first half, we're kind of where we thought we should be. I think is in first place. The Dodgers definitely came back down a little bit to earth. It didn't hurt that Kemp and Ethier both got injured, but we all kind of thought at the beginning of the year that the Giants should be the team that's in first place, right? The Giants are probably the best team in the National League West. And at the end of the first half, they were. So that's great. That's where we should be. Now, the pitching hasn't quite been up to par, and obviously that's mostly because of Tim Lincecum. If you take Tim Lincecum's stats out of the first half, the Giants actually had a 3.33 ERA rather than 3.63. So he bumped up the entire ERA of the staff almost.
Well, I mean,
half
his
a point.
was pretty thoroughly impressive. I mean, it's still pretty thoroughly impressive, but less so.
Yeah. No, he's he's one of the worst starting pitchers in the National League. And with one of the worst starting pitchers in the National League this year, we still managed to be fifth in ERA. So that's not too shabby.
Well, and considering that, like, it's not just that he was one of the worst, but he was one of the worst, and he kept giving up big innings and losing. Like, it's one thing to be, a guy like John Lannon was at one point where it was like, oh, you're pretty good, and his ERA would skyrocket, but his team would score runs. And not even John Lannon. Who am I thinking of? John Lackey. Excuse me.
Oh yeah, Lackey. Yeah, but
Wrong one. Can't believe I did that.
There's also the thing of if somebody's going to go out and have a horrible year, you don't want it to be the guy that you're calling your ace, because guess what that means? The manager's going to run him out there every fifth day regardless.
Yep.
And so what ended up happening this whole first half
that.
was we never skipped a start for him. We never decided to sit him down because he was struggling. He kept on going out there every fifth day and kept on losing ball games for us.
Right. And the worst thing is, I think that in the back of our heads, because he had such a history of it, everybody was kind of like, well, no, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's until, I mean, I'd say about halfway through the first half, like after the first quarter, if you will. I think finally people were kind of like, are we really sure this is a good idea? Because I'm not sure. But, it was one of those things where in the back of your head, you're like, but do I want Lincecum to sit and take some time off? Maybe that might be good, but he's still Lincecum, so maybe there's a chance.
And we've seen him struggle for an entire month before, and then come around and turn it all over, and become Lincecum again.
And worse yet, during this stretch, he's shown some signs of being really, really good even before the break. But there would always be a big inning.
Yeah, no, he actually, and if you look at his starts too, so by the end of April he was 2-2.
Right.
He actually had two extremely strong games after having three really, really bad ones to start the year. He actually had two fantastic games. One where he only went 5 innings because he gave up he gave up 5 walks in that game. He had 8 strikeouts though, and only gave up 1 run, but we won against the Mets. But then, against the San Diego Padres, he goes 8 innings, no earned runs. So we're thinking, okay, cool, Lincecum is fine again. Then all of a sudden, May comes around.
I was always like, let me see 2 in a row, which we finally have done this last couple starts. And before that, I was like, okay.
But then May came around, and he struggled the entire month of May. He had one start where he still lost, but he gave up only 1 earned run. And then, in June, it was more of the same. Finally, his last start against the Dodgers, he actually pitches really well. We get a win. And then so far in July, right before the break, 2 absolutely atrocious starts. Where I mean, we lose 3-9 and 2-13 respectively. I mean, just ridiculously bad.
That game.
But now
that was a fun snowball game. I remember just watching that go downhill and just like I give up.
Yeah, but let's use this to move into the talk of what we've done so far in our second half.
Oh yes, please.
So far in the second half, Lincecum. So we're 7-2 as a team since and we lost today. Could have had a sweep against the Phillies. That would have been great. But we lost today, so we're 7-2 since the break.
Right.
We got 1 sweep and 2 series wins. That's fantastic, and especially going 4-2 on a road trip. Always great. But Lincecum so far in his 2 starts, starting off the second half, has a 1.2 ERA, 17 strikeouts, 3 walks, 10 hits, 15 innings pitched, a WHIP of .86. So compare that to his ERA for the season, even up to that point, 5.72. I mean, really what it comes down to, I think, is, Lincecum trusting his stuff, trusting his mechanics, and actually pitching rather than sitting up there and thinking lift leg, turn hand, arm slot, thinking of all the things he's supposed to be doing, and then not basically pitching, not throwing to a spot, not throwing a pitch because it's the right pitch in that situation. All right, so Lincecum, we're hoping is back. We don't know. Could be. We've been fooled before. But
he's a little trickster, that one.
He is a little trickster. We're gonna hope that this is for real this time. But let's talk about some of the other things going on here since the second half has started. Babe Crawford and Nate Bonds apparently just showed up on our team. And I don't know what.
Does anybody else remember when they kept trying to call Fontenot Little Babe Ruth? And I was like, that really makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, he hit like 2 home runs in a week or something, and they were like, Babe Fontenot.
No, they called him Little Babe Ruth through the Giants Twitter account, and I was like, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's pretty stupid. But Crawford has in the last like 3 games or 4 games now, 3-run homer and a grand slam. And the 3-run homer was especially impressive because he hit a ball right off of his ankle or the inside of his kneecap or whatever it was right before he did that. I mean, he looked like he was hurting. Trainer had to come out, Gresham had to come out and take a look at him, and then immediately he goes and knocks a 3-run homer. And then Blanco does it too in the same inning. And somehow that game against the Braves turned into home run derby after, the first 9 innings were over.
Right, with because everybody would slot Brandon Crawford and Gregor Blanco into a home run derby. Obviously,
totally. They should have been there. I don't know why the All-Star. Come on,
it was such a snub. I mean, come on.
But now we got Nate Scherholtz, comes back, and since Blanco's been struggling and Pagan's been struggling, suddenly Nate's getting some playing time again.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
I got my feelings on that. I do think that a little of this could very potentially be a trade showcase, especially if they're convinced Pagan and Blanco pick it back up.
Well, I don't think. Every major leaguer hits a slump at some point in the season. I don't think that Pagan and Blanco will struggle the rest of the way.
Agreed.
And even throughout their struggles, they've both had some brighter moments.
Well, Blanco tends to give you a good at bat almost every time out.
Yeah, he's got a fantastic OBP, and he does. He's a great leadoff hitter because of the fact that he takes pitches, he fouls pitches off, he does
makes
those
pitches
things
work.
So even when he's not hitting the ball well, he can still be valuable to the team. But Nate Scherholtz has come in, finally got a little bit of an opportunity, and he got a multi-home run game today. He hit another home run to, I think it was 2 games ago. So suddenly he's kind of showing. And I do believe that the Giants are shopping him because I think the Giants want that right-handed outfielder.
Right, or I think that they wouldn't mind considering an upgrade somewhere on the infield, and unfortunately, that's probably going to be at short. Much as we like Brandon Crawford,
Well, yeah, but he's had a little bit of an opportunity now, he's still hitting pretty badly, and his fielding has come around. The fielding has come around, but
although in fairness, if you look at Crawford's average now, based on what we were all kind of saying we were hoping for at the beginning of the season, he's really shot that through.
No, he's pretty much there. Yeah, he's right where we expected. The problem though comes when you think of the production we're getting out of first base. You can't really lose production anywhere else, and if we're gonna go, Brandon Belt's the guy, and we're sticking with him, then the growing pains are going to be there, and we're going to have to pick it up somewhere else.
I mean, in my mind, Brandon Belt's the guy, you use him, you play him, unless you can get one heck of a replacement. In my mind, it's more the idea that you use him, you play him, as opposed to Aubrey Huff, Brett Pill.
Well, yeah, Aubrey Huff is done. Brett Pill would make sense if we didn't lose Hector Sanchez just now, because the fact is that, Posey can play first base. But we don't really want him to go out. I would much rather him just get days off.
Yeah,
agreed. I'd much rather him just
I really would
catch 4 games, get 1 game off. I would much rather that. They keep chucking him at first base, and it really, we only have Brandon Belt as the only other first baseman on the team right now. So it's pretty much going to be Brandon Belt or Buster Posey at first. Now, my thing right now is I don't know if we might have brought Belt on a little too early for him to have to go through this. I mean, he always talks about how it's mental. The guy right now is absolutely struggling. He's hitting 231 for the year. He's a first baseman who's supposed to be a really good hitter, but he's got a lot of at bats this year, and he's hitting 231 on the road trip. Out of 6 games, he got 20 at bats. The guy is getting to the plate. We're not sitting him down.
Right.
He's hitting. But
that's what I think all of us are a little afraid of. Is like now he's getting a lot more playing time, and now it's getting harder and harder to be able to say, well, it's just because he's not getting playing time.
Exactly. Like there's no more. We're kind of at the point where that excuse doesn't fly anymore. So what's going on here? Something's going on here because he's 1 for 20 on this road trip. When you're 1 for 20 on a road trip, which happens to people, that's fine. But when you're 1 for 20, when you were already hitting 240, 245, then you go 1 for 20 and down 231. That's scary. And he's not even doing the things that he's supposed to be good at, which are taking pitches and getting on base regardless. He's not even doing that right now. And that to me that's scary because this is the position of first base. This is where he's supposed to get offensive production. And
true, although I would argue though he does offset that a bit because we've seen some pretty bad first basemen come to our park from a defensive standpoint. So, I will throw out there I do think that he still looks really good at first.
That's true.
It's the production that you expect out of a first base. And the problem is you get the guys who can play and who can't hit, and you stick them at first base because they move less. There's such a strict sort of set of things that they're doing. It's not that you expect the guys who are bad at baseball to go to first, but it's going to hurt you less if you put somebody who's not a great fielder at first.
Yeah, no,
so
you
we
can put
forget
Ryan Howard there and stuff and be okay,
right?
Because he just crushes the ball. Yeah,
right. Even though he's basically got 2 tree trunks for legs.
Yeah.
So, but the thing that we forget sometimes is it'll be better for you with a good fielder there, and we saw that with Ishikawa, and we're seeing that with Belt. And the problem is, with first base, though, because you need power in the lineup somewhere, and it's always expected at first base, unless somebody else is picking it up, and, Brandon Crawford, who's in a traditionally light-hitting position, isn't, you start noticing that kind of thing. And in a way, it's a shame, and in a way, it makes sense. You expect the guys who have the power to be at first base, so you expect the front office to put a guy with power in at first base. And what's happened is they put a guy who has the potential for power and the potential to hit, who's an excellent glove at first base, and that's no longer good enough.
Well,
and so the tough thing is that we're judging him on the first baseman spectrum, and obviously we should be because
that's where he's supposed to be a good player. That's where he's supposed to.
Right.
That's his only position, except if you consider him to be a right fielder, which he's not.
Yeah, he's not.
He's not. No, he's not.
No.
And he never really will be. I don't think in the major leagues.
Well, the problem is you put him in left field, and it looks like he stuck him out there because of his bat. We kind of did, but the problem is he has the ability to be that defender at first. So it's one of those things where it's a natural position thing, and it's weird because you get the guys who are like, you can't catch. We're going to put you in left field.
But I would argue though
too
that we lost the game when he didn't scoop a ball out of the dirt. And if he's there and we're supposed to say, oh, he's the guy, you have to be JT Snow over there. You have to never miss a ball that you're supposed to scoop out of the dirt. And
I would say so, but I would say you're saying that because of his bat.
No, absolutely. But with JT Snow, we forgave a 230 hitter every year. We honestly did, and we were a successful team because we had success other places. But when you're hitting 230, you can never not get a ball out of the dirt. And when he didn't catch that double play with the bases loaded, and we lose the game, that's something you cannot do as a guy hitting 230 at first base. So that's what I'm saying. Like I'm kind of over defending Brandon Belt at this point. And unless he can turn it around, I'm basically not going to be a Brandon Belt defender anymore. And it's and you could say all you want about He was brought up too early. The Giants mismanaged him, whatever. The fact is, when you're the guy playing, you're the guy in that batter's box, it doesn't matter what the Giants did. It matters what you're doing. And then when you don't catch a ball in the dirt that's going to lose the game if you don't catch it, then you're like, well, wait a minute. The one thing you're supposed to do, now you're not doing that either. Then it's a little bit tougher to start defending the guy. And, yeah, I'm being tough on him, but that was
and in
you're
fairness,
supposed to
that's what we said about Brandon Crawford at the beginning of the year too.
Absolutely, yeah. And I had a tough time defending him. It's getting easier to defend him now that he's actually finally kind of figured it out.
And he's also fielding really well, which he was not doing at the beginning of the year.
But we're not expecting offense out of Brandon Crawford. We are expecting out of Brandon Belt because that's what he's supposed to be able to do. He's this phenom apparently, right? He's supposed to be like this really good young player. And a really good young hitter, and he hasn't been a really good young hitter at all ever since he's come up, basically. I mean, he's shown flashes of brilliance, but, you could say that Brandon Crawford hitting a grand slam and a 3-run homer in 3 days is a flash of brilliance, too. And, it's just, to me, like, I'm kind of, like, at the point now where I'm, like, going, all right, dude, you're getting the chances. And I think a lot of Giants fans are starting to say this, too. They're starting to say, okay, well, we thought we knew why you were struggling, and it was because you weren't getting playing time. Now I don't know if we can use that excuse anymore.
Yeah, no, and I would agree with you on that. I do think that there were so many people who were able to say, well, we're not using him, we're jerking him around, we're throwing him up and down between here and AAA, and we've stopped doing that.
And that has not happened this year, yeah. No, this year he's been on the team.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, he has gotten jerked around, but not in the same way. And less so, he's receiving more playing time. Mm-hmm. It's more consistent. We have effectively said, Belt's our guy. And, I would agree that you're starting to hit the point where people are going to start saying, okay, we now feel like we've seen enough of you. And so, I mean, I get where you're coming from. I still like Belt. I also agree with you that I do think he's starting to wear out his welcome a little bit. And it's tough because he's a young kid. But at the same time, we are a little spoiled by having had Buster Posey come up and just go nuts on the whole league. And at the same time, with Brandon Belt, there is that sense of like, okay, but, the season is so long that one season is usually all we need to make a judgment on a guy. And we're starting to make the judgment that you don't want.
Yeah. But, I guess to me, it's when you're a big league ball player, we don't really have time for you to figure it out mentally like he's been doing. Like every time we see these interviews, he's like, I'm struggling mentally with this. I'm struggling mentally with that. And Shearholtz has been more jerked around than anybody else I can think of in recent history on the Giants.
I'll throw that at you. Yep.
Yeah, so, and he's pretty much just been kind of like, well, when I get a chance, I go out there and I do what I can. And he's struggled too, and obviously it's not an easy thing to do, to be a guy who barely gets playing time. Ishikawa had to put up with this. We've had a lot of guys who have had to put up with this. And there's guys all around the league who have to put up with this. So it's not like Brandon Belt's the only guy out there who's getting less playing time than maybe he's supposed to. But we're kind of getting to the point now where it's like, you're going to get, 450 at-bats this year, maybe even 500. You better have a decent average at the end of the season if that's what's going to happen. So. A big thank you to everybody for listening to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying, we'll see you next time.